just want to party, we will party hard.
Now, some of you watching this may not already know Andrew WK, and that's a shame. You really should. Known as a rock star for partying hard, he's actually a really intelligent guy with a lot of insight. From his Fox News appearances to his Village Voice help column, I guess you'd call it, you have to read it, to just getting a show now with Glenn Beck's Blaze Radio Network. The guy does a lot of cool stuff, and he's got some interesting things to say. So we caught up with him on a solo tour at a Western Michigan staple, Derby Station Pub, to just hear his thoughts about life. So we're here with Andrew WK. Thank you, sir, for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Having you, I'm not having you. This is actually it's a cool little pub here in Grand Rapids, Derby Station.
Yes, and it's Irish theme, I suppose, or it's sort of just.
I don't know. I know you really like Irish pubs. There was that place Gabby's I was reading about.
Yes. Well, thank you for being familiar with that. I always found, not just in terms of atmosphere, but especially in terms of service, that there was a standard level of quality that was maintained very consistently at Irish pubs, bars, themed restaurants all across, at least the U.S.
Yeah.
And as someone who, maybe wasn't always the most approachable or didn't look like the kind of person that should be served in an establishment, a respectable place, I was always impressed that they always treated everyone, no matter if they were regular or like some guy looked like me walking in, never having been there. I was always treated well by the bartenders at those places. So
I think that's because in Ireland you're high society.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I know bar fights are a way of life in Ireland.
Yeah. Well,
so.
I'm a pacifist when it comes to bar fighting.
You look like you've been working out, though. So
try to exercise, have some fun, and partying actually counts as exercise, so that helps as well. The shows are very good exercise tonight. I think that'll burn about 1,000 calories.
Well, your shows do.
Well, yes.
It's not quite the same as Yo-Yo Ma going up there and.
Well, hey, a cello, that's no joke. I'd say it takes a lot of stamina. Maybe not the same as prancing and headbanging, because I do a lot of prancing, but
yeah,
it's a choice to perform in an athletic style.
Right. Now, do you feel like you have to gear up? Like Alice Cooper, I don't know if you've ever read his biography. It's fascinating. He talks about his routine where he goes in, he gets into character. He eats one chocolate chip cookie because that's the right amount of sugar, and then he watches kung fu movies for like 45 minutes. I might not have the numbers exactly right, and then the room has to be dark for half an hour. He says, I don't have to sleep, but I just have to rest for half an hour.
I had no idea. That's very elaborate in any profession to prepare to that degree. The cookie I can relate to because I do like cookie. Who doesn't?
Who doesn't like cookie?
But no, I've never. I think stretching out, that's my routine, just so you don't pull a hamstring or, dislocate your knee, which I've done before. I've broken my foot, I've broken my nose, definitely a lot of pulled muscles, but stretching seems to be a good sort of also meditative kind of focused state.
I do that too before stand-up, and it's fun. I actually blew up my knee.
See, there you go.
Stand-up. It was,
did you do it by twisting your leg and keeping your body...
The listener won't want to hear this, but I want to hear your story. Mine was with this. So there was, sometimes they build those stages out of like those multi-purpose sort of wooden blocks.
Yes.
So,
they're modular.
Yeah, and they're supposed to like contain them somehow, but the kid didn't. It was at a college. So they shifted apart. So I'm walking, my heel slips in and stays, but the ball of so it's like a brace.
Yeah.
I keep walking, but my shin stays perpendicular as I fall over. And it's still not like I'm looking at surgery. I mean, people don't realize, and it's not, I'm going to have a pretty energetic show. What you do is crazy. I mean, how long is the show? It's over an hour, right?
Well, these shows tonight will be an hour long.
Okay.
The longest we've ever done is, probably an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours. Our show, because of that kind of energy level, that the style of music, it doesn't lend itself well to going much longer than an hour and a half. Because the crowd also, they're going full blown. Mm-hmm. So to be sprinting for an hour and a half that's asking a lot of anybody.
Right.
And I think there's a more effective kind of contrast when you just blow it all out and then it's done.
Right.
And then that you're just sort of in this daze of what just happened.
Do you feel like exercising helps translate to that? Like, I had advice one time where someone said, "Hey, kid, as an actor, stand-up comic, said your career is not a sprint; it's a marathon." And I thought it's really not. It's more like interval training, rhythms and margins.
High impact interval training. That's a much better comparison.
Okay.
Because it's dynamic.
Yeah.
And there's moments, even in any career, where the only way you can really appreciate anything you've done is to be able to have a time to reflect on it, to absorb it. I think that's the most important thing. When being very busy, it's not so much that you even want to reflect and think, oh, that was really fun when I did this 2 weeks ago or last year. It's great to remember back. you're going through so much so fast in life in general, actually.
Sure.
With anyone, with whatever their pursuits are, that I feel like you have to actually give your soul time to absorb your own life, to put it into perspective within yourself. And it might not even be a very formalized, literal way of thinking about it. You just kind of have to be like a sponge and soak it all up.
And it's funny. I mean, you're a very introspective guy, and yeah, I mean, I've read quite a bit of your sort of, I guess, I don't know if you call them advice columns.
Yeah, advice column. Right?
Okay, advice columns. And do you feel like there's this image? I mean, obviously, people take party, and you sort of put it out there as more of a generality, as like a positive experience. But do you think people maybe have an image of you that's not inherently accurate? Like they picture, like you're a very calm, well-spoken, introspective guy. Do you think people expect like the party, Andrew WK all the time?
I can do that too.
I know, and you're good with that.
I can go, well, we're here and having some fun and we're going to smash things and then run amok. And that's just when there's times when that's called for. You're in actually you have a very high energy level. The way I've seen you carry your program, it's definitely amped up.
Right.
But I usually just respond to whatever the atmosphere is calling for and try to, I don't know, mirror the surroundings in a way that adds to it.
Right.
I'm not here with some kind of MO that I have to get across this certain thing.
Like shtick.
Yeah, because it doesn't feel right. I don't know. I'm more interested in trying to communicate. So that's what we're trying to talk about.
We were sort of talking about this. Do you feel like, because a lot of entertainment now, people our age, relatively our age, a lot of the entertainment, and we'll go to a break soon though, but is very conversational, like podcasts.
That's true.
And it's sort of and I almost feel like it's because our parents, they had their conversations in the house, and then they turn on TV, and gee, Willikers, But now we're so engaged in our devices that we want our entertainment to feel more real.
Oh, that's interesting. Maybe you're compensating for not having as many conversations throughout the day because of technology, the computer, or even just sort of your lifestyle, and then you want to listen to other people having conversations to make up for that void.
I mean, this would never play on traditional media, 10 years ago.
It's engrossing. There's something about it that's very unique. The podcast phenomenon, it's a style and it's a tone unto itself.
Yeah, I don't know. I could be an idiot, but I just noticed that. I find myself becoming more consumed with, we'll talk more after the break. So we first met, I think it was at a Fox News green room.
Oh, yeah.
I think it might have been Red Eye.
Yeah.
I know I had done things by satellite. So let me ask you this. You don't necessarily go out and discuss politics, so you've had some interesting political insights that I've taken with me that you may not even realize how influential they were. But do you feel like in the industry where you are, have you had any blowback just for going on Fox News? Because that's like this dirty word. Have you felt that at all from people?
Much less than I ever would have imagined.
Okay.
When I first went on TV in general, like MTV, I got to do Saturday Night Live right at the beginning of my first album cycle. My beginning of my career, we did Conan, and I got general blowback from a lot of my friends who thought just doing anything on TV at all was bad. That it was evil, corporate, like what you were saying earlier with your ad sponsors, that it was playing into this machine that I should avoid. But I completely disagreed, and I actually was expecting that because a lot of these friends of mine that I'd grown up with were very against the grain. I mean, really radical in almost off-the-grid type living.
This is in Ann Arbor?
Yeah, this is in Ann Arbor, Michigan. But I was always very much interested and stimulated by that kind of far-out thinkers.
Sure.
But didn't really relate to it personally because I liked TV. I liked Saturday Night Live, and it was like the greatest thrill in my whole life to be able to go and
it was a great performance, too, not to kiss ass.
Well, thank you for being familiar with it. So then over the years, I just always liked television, and I always liked being able to have this thing that my thing could be able to go on those places, go into these other realms where maybe I don't fit in, or maybe you wouldn't expect me to go, and actually have it be okay and make sense. And so by the time things like Fox News came around, I was still wondering what, and there were a few people that said, oh, they're evil, don't go on there. But it was much less than I expected, and I actually more than take credit for that personally. I think that just shows that, well, maybe I have a really great audience that affords that kind of open-mindedness to whatever I'm doing, or maybe they just realize it's not really what I'm not. I don't have an agenda
right
beyond really sort of good cheer, So I
Yeah.
don't know. They cut me a lot of slack. I guess.
I will say that I noticed there are two places on the internet that aren't horrible. Your Twitter feed and Art of Manliness is actually a website. We had the founder on here. They're very, very positive.
Oh, that's
it
good.
seems like, I'm sure everyone gets people who hate them. It seems like you don't get a lot of people who live to hate. Like, I've never run into one like, I just hate NJWK.
There's a few out there, but I try to take their comments in stride. Like even today, I was thinking about this. And you, I'm sure, deal with this a lot. And
Most people hate me.
Well,
I expect you to leave here and be like, geez, that guy was a jackass.
and at least you have a default mode that you can operate in.
Yeah.
It makes it easier to realize what you're up against at all times. But it seems like there's sort of, whenever you put yourself out there, when you decide to do something that is a public offering,
Yeah.
like entertainment, radio, right, anything that where you're asking someone to consider it, to give their time to it, you're going to get this kind of feedback. So the question is, like, it's the comments section of life. Do you completely avoid the comments section of life and not look at all to what
Yeah.
anyone's saying? Do you look at it and then really get upset by it?
Right.
Or is there a way to actually look at it and try to extract something from it? And that's what it's very challenging. It's painful.
Yeah.
But that's what I've been trying to do. Like, maybe they're right. It's like some of these criticisms. Like, I went on this show the other day. I'm glad back again. And some of the criticisms that people had about my comments, I agreed with them.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel great to realize that I slightly misspoke or could have said something better and couldn't go back and change it.
Right.
But it felt very good that I could take really what was sort of mean-spirited criticism and say, like, you know what, they have a point there. And that takes away this whole... It's
tough to do
fighting.
that, though, when my YouTube is just littered with people calling me Jew fag. Like, I don't know what I can clean from that.
That's a good
Maybe
point.
I am Jewish, perhaps gay.
So maybe, well, what you could glean from it would be that you're not blocking out
Right.
the world just because it's threatening.
And I think it goes back to kind of what we were talking about, rhythms and margins. Like, there are times where I can go on YouTube. I mean, because that's my world, right?
Right.
We went on with the Fox News, and people there didn't really like it. It's an extreme liability. There's no worse place than the YouTube section. It's worse than Twitter. And
Right.
there are times where I can look at it and get inspired and say, okay, I can, Bruce Lee, absorb the good,
Right.
discard the bad. And then there are times where I just know mentally I'm not in a place where I can handle
So
it.
don't go.
You just have to avoid it.
Well, that's like, if you're home alone and you're feeling on edge and it's a dark, stormy night, maybe it's not the best choice to watch a horror movie that night. Or for some people it is.
Maybe it's the best. That's what I was going to say, yeah.
Meaning, pick and choose your moments when you have that kind of internal strength to face things that are designed to be challenging. These people are trying to challenge you. I mean, a lot of times they're just, trolling, as they say, trying to rile you up,
Right.
trying to get under your skin. But even that, I want to be strong enough to let people get under my skin and see what that's like. So it's a pretty far out place. I don't know if I'll ever become that, I don't know what the word, enlightened, where I can actually go through life with that kind of impenetrable vulnerability.
Yeah.
It's a strange
It's going to be
combination.
hard for you, you know what? And I'm not saying this to sound like authoritative, but you're, as an artist, as someone who's obviously very creative, something as a comedian, you can't be thick-skinned in the sense that what makes you able to create something makes you inherently thin-skinned. It makes you
true.
sensitive
Yeah,
to
yeah.
pick up on things and create something out of that.
Well, that's very well said. That's a good observation. I think, like you want to be weak enough to be, you want to be strong enough to be weak enough. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like a really strong person isn't strong just in this way to barricade themselves from
Right.
the world. They're strong enough to actually be vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's this very strange paradox.
We talked about that too with another guest. There's this sort of, I talk about this, I guess, vilifying of masculinity nowadays. And I'm not talking about some false sense of machismo and hunting and fishing, but I think boys are very confused. And I think a big part of that too is also you have people saying that, men are inherently, your male privilege is showing, and they make them feel guilty. But then you have people acting like, well, you're either the jock or you're the book nerd. When if you look at people even like Patton, you look at people like Churchill, you look at great men, they all were very, very, very layered people. Back then, you were only considered a complete man if you were intelligent, if you were creative, if you were well-spoken, and if you had the physical. Whereas
Yeah.
now you tell people like it's one or the other.
Right, you're a type of person.
Right.
That's a really great observation. I like that idea. You're trying to assemble many types of people into one layered, as you said, and synchronized whole, where
Right.
all those things actually, it's not like that you're this way one minute, you're this way. They're all working in tandem to sort of bring out the best that you can.
A complete
achieve as
man.
a human. Yeah, well, that's something to aspire to.
Ah, well, thank you. See, you're making me
A
feel
great
smart.
human. A great human.
Yeah. Well, I guess I was talking more so about men because we've had feminists on the show who just, your patriarchy's showing. Like, oh, damn it. They just had they just had the I don't even know if I can say, they had the slut walk just yesterday.
What's that?
It's where you walk around naked and call men rapists.
Wow.
That's what it is. That's like the
That was
feminist
here?
thing. They do it across many cities.
Okay, I don't know.
So anyway, that's why my mind was there.
Intense.
And then Jeremy Renner got a bunch of flack. I'm sure you heard for the Black Widow comment.
No, I didn't.
It was really funny. He said, well, Black Widow in the comics doesn't sleep with Captain America and didn't quite sleep with Hawkeye.
Is that Scarlett Johansson's
Yeah.
character?
And
Okay.
he said Black Widow, a fictional character, is like, she's just a total slut. And now feminists are furious. It's a fictional character.
Yeah,
People are sensitive.
people get excited. Yeah.
I won't bring you into that one, but okay. So you've been on Fox News. You appear on the Glenn Beck stuff, right? And I'm sure you get people who think, would you appear on Hitler's show? Now, you've never really been open about your politics, as far as like saying I'm a conservative or putting a label on it. But I would have to imagine, just in being accepting of the invitations to those programs, that you're not like a far lefty.
I don't feel like I'm anything. And
Right.
I was thinking about this earlier today, maybe in anticipation of coming on the show. I don't think there was a time when I ever identified as anything.
Right.
Largely because I was extremely uneducated, still am, just sort of ignorant, not proud of it either, on a lot of the issues. So I didn't feel prepared or even capable of picking a position a lot of times. And two, I just wasn't interested in it. I just
Right.
really wasn't interested. If I had to label myself, I would want to have been, labeled as a musician or as a painter or as, a person. So I just didn't find that kind of engaging with the world through a political point of view.
Did you feel like you had to become more aware though, because you had people going like, well, why would you go on Glenn Beck? Sorry. Did that make
maybe
you
a
go like,
little
well,
bit.
why am I going on Glenn Beck? Is this really bad? Or
No, because he asked me.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I've gone through life, is more and more a sense of there's something pulling me along, and I can fight it or I can show up and do it. And the more I've shown up and done it, sometimes against my instincts, sometimes against the advice of people I really trust and respect, but gave into a deeper, more subtle pull that I was supposed to be pulled towards these things. I've just followed it, and things have worked out. I really would like to be able to take things case by case as much as possible in life.
Right.
And while that might not always be possible, and we do need to sort of have preset ways of looking at the world in order just to move through it.
right.
I try to stay focused on open-mindedness as the default mode.
Right.
And even question that.
Yeah.
Question everything, even including questioning everything. So it can get exhausting not resting on a certain point of view. But for me, it's been more, I've learned a lot more than I think I would have if I had just stayed with one point of view and then worked to defend it.
Well, you've got to recognize that that's different from a lot of, because like every rock star, pardon again the askism, but every rock star like considers themselves open-minded, but most of them would never even think of doing a show that has someone labeled as a conservative attached to it. So do you think
Yeah,
it's maybe they're fooling themselves into thinking they're open-minded, and you're just really, because it seems like you're very sincere. That's the one thing I think why no one really hates you, is because it's contagious, your authenticity.
You're very nice. I don't know what to say to that. I'm trying to have an adventure
Right.
in life, and I feel as an entertainer, because that still is that's what
your
I
thing.
do. If I'm not entertained by my own life, how would I be able to entertain other people?
That's a good point.
So I don't know why other people don't do what I do, or why I don't do what other people do. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. That's not even what I want to do sometimes.
Right.
But what I'm meant to do. And it's been hard to figure that out, but I'm getting better at following it.
Gosh, that leaves it open to so many questions. When you say meant to do, like what do you feel is drawing you? What is it? Do you call it the universe, God?
All of that, a
Okay.
force, maybe your own internal instincts again. But I've noticed when I feel like I'm being useful, that I'm adding something rather than just taking away or taking to make my life better. when I feel like someone else can relate to something that I've offered and it's made them feel good, or it's allowed them to tap into the part of themselves that already did feel good and they didn't realize it. Anything that sort of to make me feel like I was contributing. That was the thing. Because there was things I wanted to do because I liked it, or I wanted to make money because of this, so I could buy this or live in a certain way. But there was always a slight flatness after you did, like the striving for the achievement was satisfying. But the kind of end result, when there wasn't another person involved, it wasn't as rewarding. So I started thinking that maybe I could try to not just cheer myself up, but cheer other people up.
That's a great point. Well, we'll keep you on for one more segment if you can.
Yeah, of course.
Because that leaves me with something to bring up later with Crowder after the break. So we're back with Andrew WK, and you were talking about that, talking about creating and how if you're not entertaining yourself. It's funny because, and I've never talked about this, but when I first met you, when I started at Fox News, I was 21.
Wow.
It's not about Fox News, but New York. You love New York. I hated it.
I did it when I first got there too.
Did you?
Yeah.
I did it 2 different stints, and it just wasn't me. And you could sense that. Like if you go back and you watch the hits I was doing on television, if you go back, you can just sense that there's. I mean, if people listen to the show or people watch the videos, they're like, I think Steven's I think he's a bit of a jerk in his point of view, but he seems like a happy guy. You could sense that I wasn't happy. And I know with comedy, it's because there really is no, unless you're like, I'm trying to think like a character, like a Pee Wee Herman or something, you're doing a character, it's just you. And that really is reflected in comedy.
And it comes out.
Do you feel like that's the same thing with your music, where if you're in a state where not only are you not entertaining yourself, but you don't feel like you're really pursuing or fulfilling what you're meant to do, that it can be picked up on?
You're destroying your soul.
Yeah.
And that's painful. It could be cathartic for other people to see someone going through that in a dramatic way, but ultimately,
that's true.
You want to see people that are feeling inspired. I do my best work when I'm excited about life, when I feel like I'm maybe not figuring things out, but at least going towards some kind of purpose or meaning. I mean, there's times when I've thought that everything was meaningless. I went through all kinds of complete ambivalence and sort of tore away everything about life and then built it back up again. And now I'm in a building back up again phase, which I hope never stops. I don't want to tear it down again.
Right.
It's too, you can die when you do things like that.
But if you feel like you have to, then sometimes you're like,
It's
crap,
like
I got to do this again.
You go through ordeals in life and you hope that you come out of them stronger. And at the time, it can seem like, how could this ever be valuable? But those dark moments, I feel like, especially, and I'm not sure what your childhood was like, I had a very, very privileged upbringing. Just a good family, endless support, great surroundings with friends and mentors everywhere. And things were so good, I think that I almost had to create bad experiences so I could have a fuller version of life. I mean, your parents, of course, they want you just to have this perfect existence, but you don't get to know yourself or even the world unless for better or worse, you go through some bad stuff. Yeah. And even if you have to make it happen on your own.
Right. At the end of the day, you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, have I done everything that I could do? Did I do everything that was in my power to make sure that I'm prepared for whatever it is, whether it's a show or whether it's, the next stage of life. And that's a scary moment, I feel like, because if you can say yes, you go to work and you're willing to accept the result. For me, I don't know about you, like as far as a tearing down phase, this is kind of the question for me, and it has nothing to do with politics. I know people on the AM dial might be shutting this off, but you never know. That's what I'm saying. It depends on who's listening. What are the harder failures to handle for you? The ones where you made a mistake and you're going like, oh, I know I made a mistake? Or the ones where you feel like you did everything right, everything you could, and it just still didn't work?
That's such a fantastic question. Well, hopefully both of those types of experiences could again provide insight, education, self-knowledge, and some type of strengthening in the end. But I feel like the first one is more painful, because all you'd ever want is to feel like you gave everything you had to this chance to be alive. Whatever happens, you have to then just take in stride as that it was meant to happen.
Right.
If you truly felt like you hesitated, didn't trust that instinct, didn't follow this purpose or this call, and basically wasted your life, That
Right.
to me would be much harder. Even if it was just a day of your life or 10 years or
Right.
the whole thing.
I thought you were going to go with the Oprah answer, where I hope I would learn either way, and then you gave an actual
Well, I
definitive
threw that
answer.
in too.
No, it was
Try to
good,
go
but it was
with
good though. That I would say for me, it's one of those things where the mistakes are like, those are what keep me up at night. When I'm facing it though, and it's like I've done everything because I wouldn't say I have a privileged childhood. I'm very privileged that I have a great family. I grew up in a socialist province where they thought I was basically learning disabled because I had to go to French schools and it wasn't my first language and it was the language laws. I mean, just discriminatory language
Quebec?
laws in Quebec. Yeah. But I am very, very grateful, and I have the best father and mother and brother you could ask for. But for me, where it was, if I was like, I've studied for this test, I've done it, or same thing now, I'm prepared for this show, and I've done everything I can, and then it still doesn't work. When it happens, it's devastating, but I feel like it's something where I know I can move past it, because I go, well, I just have to correct it and move forward. Whereas, even though you're looking back, something where you made an error, those are things where if I'm alone at night and I'm not sleeping, I'm like,
that's
and I just
painful.
wince.
It is. And there's things that I don't allow myself to think about.
Yeah.
Going back 10 years, 15, 20 years ago, because I've closed that chapter. I said, there's nothing I can do
Right.
to fix that. I will never make that mistake again. Never have.
Right.
And that's the only thing I could take away. But it doesn't solve that feeling of it being
Right.
like ding, 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 needling in. It's bad. It's nauseating.
Especially if it's in the public eye, where something you can just Google and you're
boy.
like, oh. I mean, I'll tell you what, that was with me and Fox News, and where I have a rule now where I don't do media unless it's my friend Dana. And it's because, like, if I put up a video or this show is going to go up, right? People have the full thing. They can make their judgment. They could hate you. They could hate me. I'm okay with that. What's really hard is running a search and seeing someone take a clip from a show where I said something because I was asked something by a host. And even though I said what I meant, it's cut in a way or out of context where people could misconstrue it. I said, I'm not okay with that. That I can't handle.
That's hard. That's like almost getting into injustice
Right.
Territory, which is true emotional pain. I mean,
Right.
that's anguish. But better to have that version of injustice than being thrown in prison
Right.
for life for something you didn't do or something like that.
That's true.
I mean, I've got just more and more excited about this idea of trying to truly become like the best person you can be. And it's the hardest thing in the world. It's harder than anything else that I ever wanted to try to achieve, like putting out an album or getting on TV or making money or being successful, making my dreams come true.
Yeah.
All these very self-involved pursuits,
The entertainment industry.
Yeah, ambition in the traditional sense. Then there was the idea of what if I could just be better brother? What if I could be a better son? What if I could be a better husband? What if I could be a better friend?
Yeah.
And those were much like, that's going to really actually take real work. Like the work,
Yeah.
striving, recording, hours, staying up for 3 days working doesn't even come close to 1% of how hard it is to try to face yourself
Right.
from the inside out and say maybe that's what real life actually is. And all the other stuff is to facilitate that pursuit somehow.
Right. That's a good point. But you know what? I would say then it kind of comes in a roundabout way because, I mean, you sold out, we're here in Grand Rapids, you sold out the Pyramid Scheme, I mean, very quickly.
That's crazy, but I got to hand that to them, their promotion.
We'll take you downtown if we have time. We'll take you and just show you around. It's right around here. It's an incredible town. There's a lot of city pride in Grand
A lot of
Rapids.
beloved places here. I can tell that right away.
It's a lot like Ann Arbor or your friend there, Austin. I think that a big part of it is, like I said, it's contagious, is the authenticity. And when you are really just trying to improve yourself and enjoying what you do, that in itself almost becomes, for lack of, like a gimmick. Because everyone else is trying to find a gimmick, and they're trying to create this, or this is the marketing tool. And I will say this, like, you're performing your first album, right? Isn't that what you're doing for the hour?
Oh, it's a mix.
It's a mix. Okay. But you perform a lot of these songs, right? Which some of them are older, some of them are newer. But there are a lot of artists who would say, well, I don't want to do that. I just want to do new stuff. Like Paul McCartney goes up and it's like, well, Paul, we don't really want to hear your Starbucks album. We want to hear your classic stuff. And the fact that you just seem to genuinely enjoy pleasing your audience is almost abnormal now, as opposed to like, my art is for me. Well, your art is enjoyable for all people.
Well, that's why I made it. I actually, that's what I was interested in trying to get. But also, I like those songs. It's not, There's nothing grueling about me playing Party Hard. I explained this to a very close friend of mine the other day who asked if I was sick of doing that song yet. And And even I am surprised at the fact that I enjoy playing it now even more than when it was first written. I don't know why. I don't question it, though. I just am thankful that this thing is revealing itself to me. What I told him is that song, I don't even feel like I created that song. That song created me. That song created, whatever I've gotten to do that's led me here. I sort of worship that because I wouldn't be here without it. So to be resentful of it or to turn away, I don't get a creative charge or inspiration from sort of trashing everything I've already done. I do realize some people work like that, but
that's a lot of people.
Yeah,
that happened when I showed up for a band. I don't know if I want to name, because you're probably friends with them.
Don't name them.
But they showed up and they did something and they didn't play any of the songs that people wanted them to play. And it was this whole concept album, bull crap, and it was just really tough, because these people had paid for a ticket. So I think Billy Joel is one. I know, but Billy Joel, I have this opinion that if you're, for example, in this pub and a Billy Joel song comes on, you're immediately gonna, there's something going that makes me want to tap my foot.
I love Billy Joel.
Okay, there you go.
I've seen him live, and I agree. He played, all the songs that everybody wanted to hear, and then even deep ones that weren't his choice, maybe,
Right.
I've had experiences where I've done shows where I did what I felt like doing, and people were disappointed, and I didn't feel good.
No.
I didn't want to push against that. I mean, I learned from experience too where I have use, where I'm valuable, where I can offer something that actually is appreciated. If I can play that stuff at home, I can do that at other shows. Make it clear that this show I'm not going to be playing my songs, and I've done that. But I would never abandon. It's like a tree, I wouldn't cut down this whole tree just because I want to build a new nest in one area of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This thing is growing, and it kind of takes on a life of its own after you plant the seed, and you got to then tend to the tree. Like, I'm there to protect it and help it and feed it and grow it and be part of it, but I don't want to have to cut it down just because I feel like, making a new offshoot or something.
Right. Yeah, and some artists feel that way. Billy Joel, I think he said, I'm never going to write better songs than I did in my 30s.
They're incredible.
Because I became rich and fat. He's like, it's kind of like the fighter, George St. Pierre's trainer said, it's very hard to get out of the bed at 5 a.m. to train to defend your title when you're sleeping in silk sheets.
That's a very good point. It's true.
So it's like, just embrace it, know?
And I think it's very noble, and also I understand artists that don't do that, but you just got to do what feels right to you.
Great. Well, you do seem like you feel like you're in a good place.
I feel like there's things happening, and I'm thankful.
Certain things that we can't talk about, but big projects that may be in the works for you.
Yes, exciting stuff coming up. As always, very surprising, things I never would have expected in a million years. I've turned myself over to whatever this thing is, this force, this destiny, and it is pulling me along, and I'm just doing the best I can to make the most of it as it happens.
Well, okay, where can people best find you?
InterWK.com,
okay.
All one word, 2 W's, and then every other website with InterWK at the end. Twitter.com/InterWK.
All the social media sites.
YouTube.com/InterWK.
Do you do YouTube? Are you on YouTube?
Yeah, I have. I don't update it as much as some do with videos every day. I would like to. It takes a lot of discipline. I stick with Twitter. That became your
thing.
I just loved how one-dimensional and pure and short and sort of. So it felt like you were hanging out at a party, actually, with all these people chattering back and forth.
We didn't even talk about partying. I'm so sorry. There's an interview and partying didn't come up. Okay.
I got it in there.
NWK, thanks, man.
Thank you very much.
Hey, if you like this video, subscribe by clicking my face, or watch this video next to me playing in a box. Not Andrew WK, he's here, but there's another box next to him that you can click. Maybe we should put him in a box, I don't know.